Xi Jinping meets Barack Obama in St. Petersburg. Locally, Ming Pao ordered to pay damages in libel case involving football chief. And former IXCO member reflects on ICAC probe into him.
Good evening. President Xi Jinping and his U.S. counterpart Barack Obama today discussed Syria and other pressing world issues on the sidelines of the G20 summit in the Russian city of St. Petersburg. Global leaders have expressed concern the rift over Syria could overshadow efforts to forge a united front on other issues such as trade and economic recovery. Sonia Artero has our top story.
President Xi Jinping today met with his U.S. counterpart Barack Obama on the sidelines of the G20 summit in St. Petersburg. The two leaders exchanged views on bilateral issues. Xi said he's happy the two countries have improved military ties and continue to cooperate on major global and regional issues.
A stable and prosperous and responsible role.
Obama agreed, adding that Beijing and Washington have made progress on mutual concerns over climate change and strengthening military relations. According to the White House, the two leaders also discussed Syria, North Korea, and cybersecurity. Obama admitted there will continue to be disagreements between the two countries, but that tensions can be managed. Xi also met briefly with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. The president said ties between their nations were facing grave difficulties because of the dispute over the Diaoyu Islands, known as the Senkakus in Japan. Xi also said Tokyo should deal with history in line with the spirit of facing it squarely and look forward to the future so as to seek a way to properly manage differences. Abe responded by saying he too is eager to improve Sino-Japanese ties. On Syria, Obama still did his best to drum up support for a military strike in response to last month's chemical attack near Damascus, which he blames on the Syrian government.
It has induced some of the key countries, his G8 partners, Canada, which had been reluctant, France, but also the frontline states in the region, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, to say we are on the side of President Obama.
United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon is adamant no such strike would take place without UN approval. But the U.S. ambassador to the UN insists Russia is blocking action against Syria at the Security Council.
Russia continues to hold the Council hostage and shirk its international responsibilities.
Power's remarks appear to leave no doubt that when it comes time, Washington will not seek UN approval for striking Syria. Sonia Artero, TVB News.
In what could be a sign that Russia is deploying its military to help the Syrian regime, Russia's Navy was seen rotating its warships in the Mediterranean. 2 Russian warships passed through Istanbul's Bosporus Strait yesterday. The 2 destroyers followed one of the Russian Navy's largest intelligence ships, the CCB-201, which made the same trip earlier from the Black Sea to the Mediterranean. The Russian Defense Ministry admitted new warships were sent to the Mediterranean, but described the movements as routine. Moscow has been a supporter of Damascus in the 2.5-year conflict that's killed more than 100,000 people.
To other news now, there are still more revelations about the extent of spying being done by the U.S. National Security Agency. The NSA and its British counterpart have reportedly been secretly unraveling encryption technology that billions of internet users rely on to keep their data confidential. Alan Booknear reports.
The government's going to...
The revelations stem from documents leaked by former NSA contractor Edward Snowden in June and were published in yesterday's Guardian and New York Times newspapers. Snowden is wanted in the U.S. on espionage charges and was granted asylum in Russia this summer. The reports describe how the NSA's most intensive efforts focused on a type of encryption widely used on the web by online retailers, corporate networks, and banks. One document said the UK's spy agency, Government Communications Headquarters, better known as GCHQ, had developed new access opportunities into Google's computers, but the reports didn't elaborate what kind of data it could access. The U.S. government has asked news organizations not to publish these kinds of stories, saying foreign enemies would switch to new forms of communication and make it harder for the NSA to break. The revelations have sparked renewed debate about the proper balance between civil liberties and keeping the country safe from terrorists. Allegations of NSA spying drew the ire of Russia and other BRICS countries, namely China, India, Brazil, and South Africa. At the G20 summit meeting in Russia, a spokesman for President Vladimir Putin compared the electronic espionage to terrorism. Earlier this week, Brazil assailed the U.S. after new allegations that Washington had spied on Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff. This has led to speculation that she may call off a planned state visit to the U.S. next month. Alan Bookniak, TVB News.
Here in Hong Kong, the High Court has ordered local newspaper Ming Bao to pay $500,000 in damages to the vice chairman of the Hong Kong Football Association for libel. The case involves an editorial published in 2009. Evelina Leung reports.
The editorial in question focused on alleged match fixing in local football. Pui Kwan Kay sued Ming Bao for libel. The editorial has already been found to have made defamatory statements against the vice chairman of the Hong Kong Football Association. In passing his judgment today, Judge Thomas Au said the allegations made in the editorial were serious and were very critical of the development of football in Hong Kong. The judge pointed out that Pui was specifically named in the editorial a number of times. Au also said the writer failed to take adequate steps to verify the information in the article. The defense of qualified privilege is therefore not established on the facts of the case. Ming Bao was ordered to pay $500,000 to Pui for libel. Pui said he is satisfied with the judgment because his reputation suffered after the article was published. Pui, who's also chairman of local team Happy Valley, said the case indirectly cost his team sponsorship deals. Ming Bao, for its part, released a statement this afternoon saying it disagrees with the judgment. The newspaper pointed out the jury had ruled that its reporter did seek verification of the story with Pui. Ming Bao said it is now seeking legal advice and is actively considering filing an appeal against the judgment. Evelyn Lang, TVB News.
Former Executive Council member Franklin Lam has criticized the media and political parties for hurling accusations against him, which sparked an ICAC probe. But he says he doesn't expect any apologies. Stephanie Choi reports.
Rooting for the ICAC was the name of an article Lam wrote for a newspaper. In it, the former Executive Council member cited comments by others that questioned the fairness of high-profile complaints to the ICAC made by political parties. Those comments suggested that the parties had ulterior motives while making the allegations against Lam. He reminded his readers that even the perfect anti-graft system could fail if it's abused. The former EXCO member also disagrees with suggestions that recent comments made by certain government officials exerted pressure on the ICAC. Lam said if the government really wanted to do so, it could have done that during the investigation rather than waited until it was over. He also pointed out that he and his family were hounded and harassed by the media because of the case. Still, he doesn't expect any apologies, saying different people have different motives and moral standards. Lam had been accused of misconduct in public office when he sold 2 properties before the government announced measures to cool property prices last October. But the government said that Lam would not have known about these measures beforehand. He took a leave of office for about 9 months, and Lam resigned from the Executive Council after the Department of Justice decided not to press ahead with the case, citing a lack of evidence. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
The chief executive of the Hong Kong Monetary Authority says he does not see the creation of a free trade zone in Shanghai as a threat to Hong Kong's role as a leading offshore renminbi centre. Norman Chan believes the city still has the edge over its rivals. Joao da Silva reports.
With plans to set up a free trade zone in Shanghai that could allow for easier renminbi convertibility, there are fears that it may affect Hong Kong's status. But the head of the Monetary Authority, Norman Chan, played down such concerns by pointing out that Hong Kong holds a competitive edge over its rival to the north.
I think Hong Kong already has a world-class financial center, has a leading edge in the offshore renminbi business. We have our own advantages, and therefore it is important that we continue to upgrade our platform in facilitating and transacting renminbi businesses, and we will be able to maintain a competitive edge over time.
Even though there are suggestions that Shanghai's free trade zone is attempting to emulate the Hong Kong model, which could result in businesses moving north, Chan notes that Shanghai will likely face the same problems as other offshore renminbi areas when it comes to the mainland's capital controls. On the potential easing of the bond buying stimulus package by the US Federal Reserve, Chan expressed caution and admitted that it may trigger a capital outflow. And despite local and central government officials repeatedly sounding off the alarm that mass protests such as those planned by the Occupy Central movement could seriously disrupt Hong Kong's financial industry, the head of the Monetary Authority does not subscribe to that view.
Well, the banking system in Hong Kong is very robust and resilient. I think our banks are well positioned and well prepared to withstand future shocks, whichever the source.
João da Silva, TVB News.
Still to come in the news tonight, Hong Kong strikes gold at the National Games. Health chief expresses concern about tissue paper found in patient, and giant rubber duck dazzles Beijing.
Welcome back. Cyclist Li YC has won Hong Kong's first gold medal at the 12th National Games in Liaoning. Li came from behind in one of her specialties, the individual keirin event. After a spectacular fall by the lead rider, Li made her move and edged out her rivals at the line. Earlier this year, the 26-year-old took gold in the 500-meter time trial at the World Championships in Belarus. In 2012, she won a bronze medal at the London Olympics. And we'll have more sports news later in the newscast. To other news now, the Secretary for Food and Health says the government is concerned about the death of a cancer patient whose breathing tubes were found to have tissue paper inside. But Ko Wing-man refused to say if human error was to blame. Concerns about the death of the elderly cancer patient. A nurse at Tung Wah Hospital cleared the airway of the 88-year-old man on Wednesday morning before he was taken to Queen Mary Hospital for a regular radiotherapy session. All his vital signs were said to be normal then, but the patient was found to be unconscious by the time he arrived at Queen Mary Hospital. While trying to resuscitate him, medical staff found tissue paper inside the airway under the tracheostomy opening. He died later that night. Secretary for Food and Health Ko Wing-man today called the incident a matter of concern.
But because preliminary investigation by the hospital cannot identify any reason or the source of this particular artifact, therefore any subsequent investigation should be undertaken by the coroner officer. And the hospital authority and the professional staff will do everything to cooperate with such investigation.
On the controversy over the suspension of the head of cardiology at Prince of Wales Hospital, Yu Chak-man, Ko said the hospital authority is now considering inviting an overseas expert to assist in the investigation by an independent review committee.
The local tourism industry is expected to get a boost thanks to a move by mainland authorities to ease arrangements for cruise travelers. As Ronnie Samtani reports, cruise operators are now revealing big plans to attract more visitors, with Hong Kong as the home port.
At the moment, mainland tourists can board a cruise from Tianjin or Shanghai to Taiwan, Japan or South Korea, but they're only allowed one stop each trip. Thanks to a new policy from mainland authorities, they will soon be able to city hop as long as they board the cruise from Hong Kong. The tourism board says it now has more leverage to get operators to make the new Kai Tak cruise terminal its home port.
We're trying to attract more cruise companies use this itinerary, especially they're looking for the future development of the Asian cruise, ship operations. So I think China is one thing they are all very attractive to them.
This is one of the companies with big plans for Hong Kong. It's designing an 8-day trip from Hong Kong, stopping over in Keelung or Kaohsiung in Taiwan, then Okinawa, Japan, and Jeju, South Korea, before finally porting back down in Shanghai. But representatives are still hammering out the details, and so tourists won't be able to go on this trip until the end of next year. The government hopes being the home port to the regional cruises will mean more tourist dollars for the territory. To boost the low number of bookings since the Kai Tak terminal had its soft opening in June, a cruise expo will be held there later this month. Meanwhile, officials have promised to fix the many problems that have plagued the terminal, such as water leakage and poor transportation arrangements, to ensure that tourists leave the city with a good impression. Rani Samtani, TVB News.
And back overseas now, Egypt's interior minister has survived an assassination attempt. A car bomb tore through his convoy in Cairo yesterday, wounding 22 people. That's the first such attack since the ouster of President Mohamed Morsi. No one has claimed responsibility for the bombing, targeting Mohamed Ibrahim. He heads the police force that's waging a crackdown on Morsi's supporters and members of the Muslim Brotherhood.
To Thailand now, where a protest by rubber farmers demanding subsidies turned violent. The rubber farmers have been blocking roads in several southern provinces to press demands for compensation as world rubber prices tumble. The violence stretched into the night yesterday as protesters hurled rocks and bottles containing acidic liquids at police and set fire to cars. Police used tear gas to disperse the mob. 20 police officers and 4 rescue volunteers were slightly hurt. 10 protest leaders were detained, but no one was charged. A meeting between government negotiators and the protest leaders was set for today.
The latest trend of e-cigarettes is now an emerging health issue. U.S. statistics show that almost 1.8 million youngsters have tried them. As NBC News reports, that has health officials worried that e-cigarettes are encouraging the youth to try regular tobacco products.
16-year-old Joshua Short started smoking this spring to relieve stress, but he knew it was bad for him, so he switched to electronic cigarettes.
A cigarette, when you're smoking it, you feel dirty, but with this, it just seems a lot cleaner, and it doesn't seem like such a gross habit.
It's called vaping because the device delivers nicotine in a water-based vapor.
Originally, I first heard about electronic cigarettes from one of those blue e-cigarette advertisements I saw on TV.
Ads featuring celebrities like actress Jenny McCarthy.
But here's what I don't love: a kiss that tastes like an ashtray. Blech.
She's part of a massive industry campaign, which also includes free handouts at events like New York's Fashion Week. Critics say all that marketing may account for the fact that 1 in 10 high schoolers say they've tried e-cigarettes, an alarming trend for health officials who worry these devices could be a gateway to tobacco.
Kids' brains are highly susceptible to nicotine addiction, and many kids who start with e-cigarettes will be addicted to nicotine and struggling with nicotine addiction for their whole life.
E-cigarettes are a relatively new technology, and their long-term health effects are still unknown. They contain varying amounts of nicotine, and many come in flavors like watermelon and kiwi, which critics say are meant to appeal to kids. But the e-cigarette industry insists its products are not for children.
We must prohibit the sale of these things to anybody under 18 years of age.
Former Surgeon General Richard Carmona is a consultant for Enjoy, one of the leading e-cigarette manufacturers. He says they are meant for adult smokers.
We're doing everything we can to encourage people not to start and for children certainly not to be involved.
At least 15 states have banned sales of e-cigarettes to minors.
My fear that there are some health consequences that are yet unknown.
Joshua's dad may worry about his son vaping, but for Joshua, it's a clear choice.
Whether or not it's bad for me, I believe it's better than a cigarette.
All right, Chris, over to you for sports.
Yeah, and over to the U.S. we go, where there's a big upset at the U.S. Open. Defending champion Andy Murray was beaten by Stanislas Wawrinka of Switzerland in straight sets. Jameson Wong has more.
And out of sorts, Murray was never really in the match against the world number 10. The defending champion had 0 break points against the Swiss. Wawrinka also had 3 times more winners, 45-15. The scores 4-3 and 2. The 28-year-old reaching his first Grand Slam semifinal.
I feel great, that's for sure. I'm really happy for sure. It's amazing for me to be in the first semifinal in a Grand Slam, especially after beating Andy Murray, defending champion. He just won Wimbledon too. He's a great champion, and to beat him in 3 sets the way I was playing today is quite good for me.
And like I say, I mean, I've played my best tennis in the slams the last 2-3 years, and I lost today in straight sets, so that's disappointing. I would have liked to have gone further, but I can't complain.
Wawrinka will next play top seed Novak Djokovic. Djokovic won in 4 over Russian Mikhail Yuzny, 6-3, 6-2, 3-6, and 6-love. The world number 1 has reached the semifinals in 14 straight Grand Slam tournaments and 7 straight at Flushing Meadows. Jameson Wong, TVB News.
The National Football League is back, and the Denver Broncos defeated the Baltimore Ravens 49-27 in the season opener. The Broncos' Peyton Manning tied a league record with 7 touchdown passes against the defending Super Bowl champions. Manning was 27 of 42 passing for 462 yards. Last season, the Ravens beat the Broncos 38-35 in double overtime on their way to the championship. And in baseball, the Boston Red Sox beat the New York Yankees in 10 innings. The Red Sox tied the game at 8-all with 2 outs in the 9th inning. They scored the go-ahead run in the top of the 10th and won the game 9-8. Boston owns the best record in the American League, while New York is fighting for a playoff wildcard spot.
And finally for tonight, a giant duck on a world tour made a stop in Beijing today. The 18-meter-tall inflatable duck, created by Dutch conceptual artist Florentine Hofman, has already attracted worldwide attention after appearances in 8 major cities around the world. A slightly shorter 16.5-meter version came to Hong Kong in May. Visitors noted that the Beijing duck didn't appear fully inflated, and the beak was sagging slightly, giving it a sad look. The giant duck will stay afloat on the Yongdeng River in Garden Expo Park until September 23rd, when it will move on to Kunming Lake in Beijing's iconic Summer Palace. And that's the news for tonight. Thanks for watching.
Good night.
It was mainly cloudy with a few showers at first today. There were sunny periods in the afternoon. Now at 5 p.m., a subtropical ridge was bringing generally fine weather to southeastern China. Today's temperatures ranged from 24.1 to 29.5 degrees, and the current temperature is 27 degrees Celsius. 0.3 millimeters of rain has been recorded since midnight. So Freddie, how's the weather tomorrow? Mainly fine, temperatures range from 25 to 30 degrees. Tomorrow's API is forecast at 20 to 85, and the pollution level will range from low to high. The maximum UV index forecast for tomorrow will be about 11. Now, here's the latest global weather update. Showers in Shanghai, cloudy in Taipei. Sunny in Guangzhou, cloudy in Chengdu. Cloudy in Seoul and Tokyo. Rain in Ho Chi Minh City, showers in Manila. Thunderstorms in Kuala Lumpur and Singapore. Sunny in New Delhi, rain in Karachi. Sunny in Cairo, showers in Nairobi. Sunny in Brisbane, showers in Melbourne and Auckland. Showers in Toronto, sunny intervals in New York. Sunny in San Francisco and Los Angeles. Sunny intervals in London, cloudy in Paris and Frankfurt. And that's the weather. Have a great evening.